Web 2.0, that's the title of this particular session. I'm also going to talk about knowledge, discovery, and innovation. Now, when we talk about Web 2.0, it immediately connotes something about the second generation of technology, the next generation of technology for the World Wide Web. I think it also connotes in a way about the next generation of people, you know, the pre-teens and the teens and the post-teens who will inherit the earth in the next few years, the emerging power structure. So in this context, first of all, as you have, I think in the morning session, you know that as it happens in Hollywood, like in Star Wars, or in nowadays even in Bollywood, that sometimes you meet as sequels, which are actually prequels. So you meet Anakin Skywalker later, but you meet Luke Skywalker first. So some of the technologies, therefore, what you see today, which are exciting, and we will talk about it, and we are in this session and the following sessions. But many of them actually represent some interesting ways to innovate, interesting ways to discover knowledge. But knowledge, as you know, has followed a sort of a law of conservation of knowledge. That means new knowledge hardly gets created, but actually knowledge often gets recreated. That's why in academics we call it research, we don't call it search. So therefore knowledge is always something old, something new. So we have, for example, this is another shot of the bulletin board system, which is as old as 1978. That means almost 30 years back we had this. So what we are seeing today is actually a sequel, but it sort of is a prequel. We had this multi-person gaming long time back. In fact, when I came to know about internet and started practicing, I was also quite fond of some of these games. I don't do those anymore. In France, for example, many of you might know that Minitel was extremely popular. And even today there are people who continue to use Minitel, which was actually a terminal in every home, which could provide you a lot of interaction and a lot of information. Even Weblog is almost 10 years old, or Wikipedia, one of the, I think, prime examples of how you can discover knowledge, how we can innovate, is now 7 years. As opposed to those people we are quite familiar with, at least in this particular gathering, I'm going to talk about some other people. And it might seem a little bit strange that we will talk about villages and we will talk about agriculture in this particular setting. But it is I would like to emphasize, it is my keen interest that I would like to draw those of you who are in computer science, those of you who are in social science, I would like to draw your attention to the crying need of research input today in agricultural innovation. If we are not able to innovate, if we are not able to take India's agricultural growth rate from its present average of about 1.78% to 4%, which is the next 5 years objective, please believe me, it will be the biggest Achilles heel of Indian economy. Actually, we will lose our food security if it doesn't happen over the next 5 years. And I would like to show you how these technologies can contribute tremendously towards that. But it needs many more of you to pay attention. We have been actually, at IIT Kanpur, been able to excite some of the technology students, some of the social science students, some of the agricultural university students from nearby colleges. And having brought them together, we have been, with a very low budget, we have been able to make impact, I think. And as a result of which today, under the National Agricultural Innovation Program, they have just asked us to do a very large project. But it needs many more collaborators. It needs a tremendous networking, and that's one of my intention to appeal to this particular community. The first thing I would like to talk about is that when we talk about web, it does not necessarily mean computers, it does not necessarily mean keyboards or screens and so on, because if you look at this particular latest the statistics, that in Asia, the penetration of internet is just about 12%. So when we are talking about Web 2.0, I would like to first make a point that it is not only about internet, it is not only about computers and networks, it talks about many other forms of networks. For example, this is a famous experiment. If you go to Google or any of the search engines and put Infotela, you will see this. This is an icon. This is a sort of experiment we did, that at the back of a cycle rickshaw, we put a computer, we put a CDMA connection, we put a solar-powered battery system, and we took it to the villages. Its purpose was not that it is a very effective way of going around, but its purpose was to bring this technology to people rather than waiting for the people to come to the technology. And it generated a lot of interest. This is a particular experiment which I often say failed but created many more successes. So it's and there are interesting case studies which we have written, and you can see those case studies at our website, or just many other people from Berkeley as well as from other universities have written about this particular experiment, Infotela. So the point which I'm trying to make here in the next bottom box is that there are maybe 200 million plus phones in India, soon approaching 300 million, but there may be only about 3 million people who are using internet. So the phones, mobile phones, represent a very powerful platform for this particular technological application. However, whenever we come to this situation about content, about knowledge delivery to rural India, we immediately face some of, besides the problems of power, connectivity and all that, we have these problems of literacy, and we also have some other interesting problems which we have discovered, that even when people who can read or write in India, they prefer, at least in this area of UP where we work, they prefer non-textual, visual and oral transmission a lot more. Perhaps we should have understood it long before, because that's why even our greatest scriptures are called Shruti, because they were actually handed down through the oral tradition. We also have a big problem that when pundits and researchers who innovate, say in the field of agriculture, when they write, even though their target audience actually are vernacular speakers, because our academic discipline is such like that, they have to actually write in English. So we have very little good content in vernacular language. And also, as you all know, that it is very costly to maintain digital content up to date and in any particular domain. So therefore, we were actually plugged with this particular situation, that we saw that there were hundreds of experiments and hundreds of initiatives of applying internet and its various derivatives to rural India, but we found that many of those were actually general content, general knowledge, particular, really pertinent for a particular locality, or geographically pertinent content was hard to find. And also we found that therefore the people who needed the knowledge, needed the content, and people who created the content, there seemed to be some sort of gap which needed to be bridged. So therefore we created, and again I'm not going to spend too much time on the architecture, how it went about. A lot of these are available on our website as in the form of white papers and PowerPoint presentations, and I will urge all of you, whoever is interested, to look at this. But this is an interesting architecture, as you can see here, that we are involving. This is our social network. This is our innovation network. This is actually the mashup that we are trying to create. On that side, we have the agricultural universities, like the Chandrasekhar Azad Agricultural University in Kanpur, or the Central Institute of Subtropical Horticulture in Lucknow, or the Indian Institute of Pulses Research we work with, and we have institutes of technology like ours. We involve the faculty, the students, and the researchers more and more and try to expand using the methods of social networking, people who should get interested. We have international agricultural resources, ICRISAT or FAO. I'm glad to mention that just 2 months back there was a huge conference in Rome sponsored by FAO, which was called Web2 for Dev. And you can actually go to that particular website, Web2 for Dev, WEB numerical 2, FORDEV.net or .org. And there are some very, very interesting presentations still available, even visual streaming available there from Africa, from various parts of Asia and Europe and America. We have these deployment partners, which are like our Krishi Vigyan Kendras. We have been working with these 5 of them. And we do understand, therefore, that the delivery has to be done over multiple media, like the web, the mobile, the Krishi Mela, that means the agricultural fairs, where we meet face-to-face, radio, community radios. We are working with many of them in our region. And in the central, we call it the wiki-like content management system with ontology, and we have called it the Agropedia Indica. This is the next project on which we are embarking on. The aim is to create a talking, visual, encyclopedic resource on Indian agriculture, which a farmer can access for his or her need, or even a trader can access, a researcher can access. You can go horizontally or vertically, whichever direction you want, and for whatever purpose you want to use it for. And there are some technological issues here, but I think in this session, I would like to not spend too much time on research-oriented, but I would really like to make this session interactive. But this is just a way of that there is a definitive workflow. There are many, many very interesting research possibilities here for computer scientists to work on this emerging content from the field, the so-called folk content, and how you can integrate that with classical academic knowledge. So we call this a confluence of 2 types of knowledge, the Gyan Dhara, which is the academic knowledge, and Janak Gyan, which is the people's knowledge or folk knowledge, and how it is important to integrate that if you want to create innovation in a very old science area, which is agriculture, one of the oldest knowledge areas of human civilization. These are some shots from our website. It is available in English, Hindi, and now right now, I think within a month or so, it will be available in Telugu. We have different types of visual representations of, like, as you can see there, these are fruits. But along with the fruits, you can also actually get some textual and also very scientific taxonomy of this knowledge structure. And you can also, that particular block represents knowledge which are created by people, the farmers as well as village-level extension workers. But what is more interesting here, for example, on that left-hand quadrant there, that it is an ontology. But it is actually an ontology which is been created by farmers. That means how would you like to compartmentalize knowledge? Now you see on this axis we have the different kind of dals, the pulses, arhar, masoor, moong. And these are actually the 7 or 9 buckets in which they agreed, the farmers and the village level workers agreed how they would like to segregate and capture knowledge. And as we created this, people started adding photographs, people started adding sound bites, and this sound bite, which at that time we called the Kisan blog, became extremely popular.
अरहर में कि जैसे बांझ रोग लग जाता है तो उसके कैसे पता लगेगा, उसके लक्षण बताओ, कुछ लक्षण क्या बताओ उसके जरा। इस रोग से ग्रसित पौधे की पत्तियां हल्के हरे रंग की दिखाई पड़ती हैं और रोगी पौधे स्वस्थ पौधों की तुलना में हल्के हरे पीलापन लिए दिखाई देते हैं। रोगी पौधे की पत्तियां प्रायः आकार में छोटी एवं पतली हो जाती हैं और उन पर अनियमित आकार के हल्के हरे एवं गहरे धब्बे या चित्तियां पड़ जाती हैं। रोगी पौधों में फल व फूल नहीं लगते हैं। इस रोग का नाम अरहर बाध्यता मोजेक विषाणु का नाम दिया गया है।
So as you see here, as the knowledge is expanding, we have different kind of fruits, vegetable crops where it is compiling. And because we are using audio input, and nowadays memory is very cheap, so you don't have to convert this. You can store it as an audio question, have the audio answer all compiled, and easily, and there is a very interesting research opportunity here of audio indexing. Normally everything that we know about search and indexing are all based on text, and we are trying to see how we can index and search visual or audio data blocks or files. And other interesting thing to point out here is that people just speak into the computer initially, and we are now actually, within the next 3 or 4 months, we will have a system where people can just use their plain old telephone system, and we will have a computer telephony integration. So they don't have to come to the Krishi Vigyan Kendra or the kiosks to ask question or retrieve answers. They will be able to do it using the mobile platform or even the plain old landline telephone system. So this has been very, very popular. And when I presented this at the Web2 for Dev conference in Rome in September, it has actually attracted, if you just Google my name and put Kisan blog or put agriculture, you will see how many places all over the world this has been talked about. So it's I think this is it immediately shows that how in many developing economies or where we have this literacy or language problem, this is a very nice technological solution. In the next phase, along with the Agropedia Indica, we are therefore migrating from so-called Kisan blog to what we are calling Krishi Katha. Here our ambition is much bigger. We want to have like the Samhita or like, so all kind of stories and conversations we want to capture. This will be based on a 2G cellular mobile always on, and therefore instead of a farmer to expert only or some farmer to, we will have both horizontal networks and vertical networks very easily integrated into this particular system. So this is just a visual representation that while we have this sparse distribution of World Wide Web over the internet, we have a very dense distribution of the mobile phone, and we feel therefore that this is a social networking platform that can have a lot of meaning for rural India. So it can create a viral growth, just as we have seen this phenomena. So the same phenomena can be repeated in this particular context. So therefore, if we are talking about communication for social change, communication for networking for social development, or making innovation happen in some practice, please understand that when we talk about the problems of business process re-engineering in organizations which are 15 or 20 years old, remember this is where we're trying to do a re-engineering in a business process which is thousands of years old. So it needs a lot of good, interesting research inputs. So for both social scientists and computer scientists, it offers a lot of potential. So you can use, therefore, emulate what we know about the cutting-edge technologies to the grassroots problems, therefore, to create this impact. These are some interesting ways how people are contributing. This is actually a set of diagrams which people have created how the diesel engine on tractors can work more effectively. Again, some school children and some agricultural students of first year and second year during their summer vacation worked with us and created this because this can be explained much more efficiently to the farmers, that how they can maintain. If you go to our website, we have many other such examples which have been created by the people for the people. So I just want to draw to the end of my presentation that food security is a critical problem, and this is an excellent area, therefore, both in terms of research and in terms of social contribution to come into play. These are some new other interesting areas, like this is an experiment and research that several of our MTech students are working on. These are visual ontologies or knowledge maps. That means taking large volumes of material which are in text, how we compress that and present it very effectively. Here, as you can see, from fruits, we can show up a whole lot of pictures, and a farmer can actually touch papaya and immediately see different varieties of papaya and can then hear or see different types of knowledge nuggets that are available on that particular item. So this is my slide to say that Web 2.0 is not only for India. Please wake up that it is also for Bharat. It is not about technology and tools, but more about understanding India, that is Bharat, how the 70% lives, dreams and hopes. And I hope that the 30%, or at least the us of this conference, will wake up to those dreams. And this is my last slide in which I would like to show you.
मुखिया जी, फ्यूचर में बेचने के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा?
हाँ, तो हम ही बता रहे थे कि हम फ्यूचर्स में कैसन व्यापार कर सकते हैं. अच्छा, मान लो कि तुम्हें
This is
फ्यूचर्स योजना
explaining
में
a very
व्यापार
complex
करना है,
subject, which
तो
is
सबसे
agricultural
पहले
futures
तुम्हें
and
दलाल
options
या
trading,
बैंक के पास
using
जाना
puppets and
तुम्हें
using.
व्यापार खाता
So
खोलने
this
के
is how
लिए
actually a
कुछ
complex
रुपयों की
knowledge
जरूरतों
can
पड़े.
be communicated.
अरे मुखिया जी, ज्यादा रुपया लगी है का?
अरे नहीं हो मुरली, लेकिन थोड़ा रुपया तो दे का पड़ी भाई. अब जैसे हम पहले तुम्हें टेलीविजन का उदाहरण दिए रहे, वहीं हम फिर लौटते हैं कि अगर तुम्हें टेलीविजन पसंद आ गया तो तुम दुकानदार को कुछ रुपया पेशगी में दोगे और तय कर लोगे कि वह टीवी दूसरे को न बेचे.
So that, gentlemen and ladies, was my presentation, a report from the field, from something that is happening in rural parts of UP, in the belt between Lucknow and Kanpur. And any of you who would like to visit, I would love that you come over, see, and participate, and give us more intellectual inputs, because that's the only way we can actually do new things more effectively and efficiently. Thank you very much.